Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Eugene's May 30th, 2025 program, the Turtle Awards. My name is Andrew Kallick, and I am City Club's president. We're coming to you from our home at the historic Wow Hall in the heart of downtown Eugene, and it's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our speakers and award winners, and to all of you joining us here in person, online, and over the radio. Since 1990, City Club has been dedicated to our founding mission to build community vision through open inquiry. In accordance with our mission and purpose, we hope to help connect people throughout our community and across generations, identities, experiences, and perspectives. You are invited this week and every week to join us in this effort, to share your wisdom, learn something new, and take active steps to make a difference in this city and region that we love. Of course, we cannot do this work alone, so a special thank you today to our Platinum, Community, and Diamond sponsors. Kaiser Permanente, which exists to provide high-quality, affordable healthcare services and to improve the health of our members and the communities we serve. More information at www.kp.org. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. More information at uoregon.edu. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. Thank you to the City of Eugene and to Lane County for their support as well. And thank you to our award-winning public radio station, KLCC FM 89.7, for airing City Club programs Monday nights at 7 p.m. For those listening at home or in the car right now, your household is one of several thousand tuning into City Club on KLCC. We love that you are here. You can also find recent City Club programs archived on KLCC, as well as on our YouTube channel and as podcasts. I'll now hand the microphone to John Van Landingham, the chair of City Club's Turtle Committee and the coordinator of today's program. John.
Thank you, Andrew. Since 1991, the City Club has given a Turtle Award every year but one. Through 2024, 66 turtles have been recognized. Not all of us are still alive, but those who are wonderful people in our community. I want to recognize those who are in attendance who are turtles. Steve Moe, by the way, Steve is the only turtle with two turtles. The recipient every year gets a cast iron turtle with their name engraved on it, and Steve's turtle was destroyed in a fire that burned down his home. So I got him another one. Greg Rickoff, Tom Bowerman, Otto Patisha, Derek Johnson, John and Molly Stafford, Karn Knutson, Mo Young, Marion Malcolm, and Susan Siegel. I was the first turtle in 1991. The first couple of years, turtles were chosen by three of the founders of the City Club, Gene Tate, Jerry Gatos, and Bob Moulton. Since 1994, I have been the unofficial chair of the unofficial Turtle Committee. The Turtle Committee consists of all the turtles. We meet once a year. Our only task is to pick new turtles. We have some rules, but we don't always follow them. And one of those rules is that we'll only meet for 1 hour, and we'll make a decision at that meeting, and then we won't do any lobbying after that or second guessing after that. It's the best committee I've ever been on, and I've been on a lot of committees. The criteria for the Turtle Award are, and you'll note that these criteria are not necessarily consistent. One, fostering creative problem solving in Eugene's public affairs, stimulating constructive action, forging cooperative relationships, honoring diverse perspectives, sticking one's neck out for the good of the community, and an unwritten criteria that we try to follow should be someone who is underappreciated by the public. New turtles, as I mentioned, get a small cast iron turtle with their name engraved on the bottom. That original turtle was found at an art gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico by Gene Tate. She bought it and gave it to her husband, Wayne. A couple years later, she stole it back from Wayne and gave it to me as the first turtle. Since then, those cast iron turtles have all been gotten honestly. I want to say tell one other fun story about that first Turtle Award. In the early days, it was a secret who was going to be the new turtle or turtles. We've given between 1 and 3 turtles each year. And so that was the rule until one year when the recipient did not show up. So we decided at that point you had to be present to win, because it makes it a lot more fun when the new turtle is there to talk about why they do what they do. At that first presentation in 1991, I was there with my wife, Martha Walters. She knew her job was to make sure that I came. I would have come anyway, but I did. Um, and the speaker, the introducer, the presenter was Jerry Gatos. And Gatos started by saying that this first turtle starts the day with a large bowl of Frosted Flakes. And I turned to my wife and whispered, "Thank God some other adult besides me eats Frosted Flakes." Unfortunately, I was the only adult who eats Frosted Flakes. This year, we're recognizing 3 new turtles. The process is that for each of them, we've got a presenter who will describe why they deserve to be a turtle. And unusually, each of this year's 3 presenters are turtles themselves. When we've asked each new turtle to talk a little bit about why they do what they do, what motivates them to stick their necks out. The new turtles are Oblio Stroyman, presented by Mo Young, Sharon Posner, presented by Otto Patisha, and Paul Solomon, presented by Greg Rickoff. But we're going to start with Mo Young and Oblio Stroman.
Those of you who know me know how much I love public speaking, so thank you for your patience. So I spent a lot of time in the last handful of days thinking about what in the world I could say about this human, and then I spent some time this morning writing the things down that I wanted to say. I'm going to start by looking at all of you and telling you about those 4 criteria that we just heard about, and then I'm going to really just talk to Oblio for a second. You all get to, like, I don't know, witness probably something really adorable. But so I broke down the 4 different criteria. So fostering creative problem solving in Eugene's public affairs. I would argue that Oblio is fostering creative problem solving in more than just Eugene's, right? So countywide, statewide, certainly Northwest wide. And we are so lucky to have them here doing their work. Oblio Stroyman started Transponder in their backyard as a support group with a handful of friends, and did it because there was nothing like that in town, and it was a need that was identified. They have worked with boards and public bodies as a consultant as well as a volunteer, working really hard to move the needle for the people who are often left behind and who are harmed by our systems. The second item for turtles is stimulating constructive action. I wrote some capital letters here. So Oblio is currently working with the county through their consulting business, Relatable, in a myriad of different capacities, some of which I'm partnering with, some of which other folks are partnering with, some of which they are doing truly on their own. And then in all capital letters, I'm not going to yell, but just know that I would be. What makes this so dang special is that Oblio is a human who has many intersecting identities. They're often coming into these spaces, public, private, and nonprofit, and doing work that directly affects communities they're a part of, whether that's they themselves or people that they are close with and love. And they get up and they do it almost every day. This takes a toll on every bit of their life that you can imagine, and they keep showing up. The reason that I put their name in the hat for being a turtle is because their tenacity and the commitment they have to the community, ensuring that everyone is safe and knows without question that they belong, is unmatched. I have never met somebody with the amount of commitment that Oblio has. The third is forging cooperative relationships. So in their, quote, day job, Oblio is a relationship therapist. But this really reaches more than just their professional spaces. It shows up in the work that they do as a consultant, in the work they do in the community, and truly just as the human that they show up as every day. There really is a reason that their consulting business is called Relatable. The last is honoring diverse perspectives. When I asked Oblio for high level, tell me about your life this morning, They reminded me that they left their home at 17 and drove across the country looking for people that were open to a diversity of identity and thought. And we are so lucky that this is where they landed. Everything makes sense in context. I hear that from Oblio all the time. And they're focused on helping people that they work with understand each other's context, whether that's just in conversation or whether that's in a group that they're presenting to. But now I get to talk to Oblio. So I wrote at the top, I said, what do I know and love about Oblio? So I want to tell you. Oblio is one of the best humans that I have ever had the privilege of knowing. They're committed to the work and to making the world a better place. They're committed to doing that work for everyone, not leaving anyone behind, and are often focused on reminding the rest of us about the people that are left on the margins. They have a way about them that makes people feel comfortable and open to learning. They're able to hold space for all of the feelings. They're a joy to be around, even when they're having the worst day or the biggest feelings. And they're beautifully creative and intentional about every aspect of their life. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Turtle Club.
All right, wow, okay, so take a breath to receive that. Yeah, well, I mean, it's an honor to get to be here. I'm so grateful to be welcomed into this circle. It's cool to be recognized and all, and it's mind-blowing to be recognized by somebody who I respect so deeply, but then to be able to be welcomed into a circle of people I love and admire and respect so deeply. Some of you who I haven't met before, and some of you who I've worked with closely. And either way, we've been walking in this community together for a really long time, doing really important work. So we've been supporting each other without knowing each other. So now we can put faces to names, and I hope to know you all better. The work for me has always been about questions, right? And so I was asked the question, why do you do the work that you do? And maybe I'm not alone in this room, and I don't know that I've asked myself this question, like, why does a fish swim? Right? Why do we do this work? I hadn't really thought about it that way. It's something that I'm so compelled to do. The things we do, what we can't not do, right? So I had some time to sit with this one a lot. And so, my name's Oblio. I was born in Massachusetts in the 70s, the 80s. I grew up, and everyone's named Paulie and Brian and John and Chris, all of these names, but I was named Oblio, right? No opportunity to blend, ever. And in fact, my name, I think, is part of the reason why I get to be so engaged with you all in the way that I do. Because nobody ever says, hi, Oblio, nice to meet you. Not that they don't think it's nice to meet me, but there's always something else, right? It's always like, oh, I've never heard that name before, or oh, I've heard of you. Or I'll forget that name, or I'll always remember that name. There's always an engagement. So I've been engaged with people since the moment I popped out, maybe even before. And the cool part is my name would have been Oblio no matter what sex assigned at birth happened. So that part's cool. But it was rough growing up. Does anyone in this room know where the name Oblio might come from? Yeah, where? Absolutely, you got it. Yep, people who know this story, again, as a kid, this was rough. But people who know this story love this story. It's called The Point. And Harry Nielsen wrote it. And if you want to watch it, watch the Ringo Starr version. It's on YouTube. It's only an hour long. But here's the story. The story is Oblio was born with a round head, and I've got roundness to me, into a land of point. Everybody has a point on their head. And though everybody loved Oblio, Oblio gets banished to the pointless forest because of the law, even though the people didn't want it. So Oblio walks alone in the forest with their dog and just meeting a lot of different characters and learning from each different character that he meets. When he comes back to the town and he says, hey everyone, you can have a point in life without having a visible point on your head. And I don't know, chicken or the egg, but for me, that story has deeply impacted my life. There's a lot of different ways that my family didn't blend. My grandfather was disabled and we lived in an affluent town, but we weren't affluent. My mom was never properly compensated for the work she did, so we didn't fit in that way. We didn't blend. My father wasn't present, but my uncle was. And he and his part of the family tree is black. We lived in a primarily white neighborhood and town. We didn't blend. I'm half Orthodox Jew, half Catholic in a Christian area. We absolutely didn't blend. My grandparents only spoke Russian. They didn't speak English, and they were Jewish. We didn't blend. At 17, I dropped out of school when I was 15 years old. That didn't blend. When I was 17, I had a kiddo, and he was diagnosed with Asperger's at the time. 31 years ago, it wasn't what it is today. We didn't blend. And all of these things seem like obstacles, and they were hard at the time, don't get me wrong. But all of these things, much like Oblio in the forest, a hard situation has been really my greatest teacher. And so, as Mo said, when I was 17, I hopped in my little VW bus, living the dream, and came over here because I heard there were big trees, that people were kinder, that people sat in hot springs naked, all of the beautifulness, and were safe. So I did come out here to try to find like a diversity of perspectives, and I've lived here now for 32 years-ish, and this community has been essential to me, by and large, and it's good, and it can continue to be better, and that's something I think we're all in here trying to do. So let's see, where am I on this map? I don't even know. So as Mo said, I found it relatable because people kept asking to talk to me or to have me come in and speak. And so that's a gift. I love talking with people. I've always had to. And so my business is called Relatable because I think what I don't know that anyone can argue is that all life relates. And it is through this relationship that we survive. It's only through healing our relationships that we're able to survive and to thrive. And that's healing relationships with ourselves, personally, maybe first and foremost, our family, our communities, the systems that exist, and the planet, most essentially. So that's why I have Relatable, is to be in relationship with you all. And, I'm a relationship therapist, and I think translation is really what that means. I'm a translator. Because everything makes sense as context, as Mo said. I say that a lot. And we need to understand each other's context. And so being able to create environments that allow people to show up in their most authentic selves, we can understand one another's context, and then we can start to relate and seek to understand. I believe that we do this work within ourselves. If we do this work within ourselves, to regulate our nervous systems, to unlearn the noise, to listen with humility, curiosity, and a passion to relate, we create something that resonates outward. And from that resonance, we build bridges. I am a student of nuance. Binaries have never served us. And so, especially now, in the state of our world, when we seek to connect with one another and understand there are no heroes or villains, it's easy to make heroes and villains. It's easy to pick a side and put our energy behind that and let that be what is. The harder work, but the more fulfilling work, and the only way that we'll survive, is if we continue to connect and look at each other's context and nuance. We are none of us the best or the worst things we've ever done. So why do I stick my neck out? That's a good question. Because I know what it's like to feel invisible. Because I know how systems fracture a sense of belonging. Because someone once stuck their neck out for me, Mo, today in fact, because she doesn't like public speaking, and I won't forget it. And I believe that belonging should never be a reward for conforming. It's a birthright for each individual human being. So creating the environments where we get to be our most authentic self only makes us better. I believe that connection is medicine, and when we create and center nuance, we create room for context, we honor each other's complexity, and make hope in a really challenging world. Hope is so essential. Sometimes this work is about policy, helping people understand diagnoses, assessing and deconstructing systems, blah, blah, blah. But always, and more importantly, it's about presence with one another and about choosing to show up, and choosing to sit in discomfort and do the hard work, and choosing each other, about embodying humility and deep listening. So thank you for inviting me to be here with my new little friend.
You did good. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Otto Patisha, and I have the pleasure of introducing you to Sharon Posner as a 2026 Eugene City Turtle. Sharon has been an advocate for the arts and humanities in the Eugene-Springfield area for over 60 years. This Canadian and her husband Mike moved here in the 60s. Mike hid out at the university, and Sharon advocated for, and promoted this community's humanities, plus the visual and the performing arts. Those ingredients, in my judgment, are the most important ingredients for a community and the ingredients that distinguish one community from another. She has served on many important committees, boards, commissions, and is a committed member and a strong advocate, serving many positions, including president. She, after 60 years, is and continues to be an active member of the League of Women Voters, who have their own table here tonight. I have the condensed list of her achievements, but that's not why she was selected to be a turtle. I have the list. She never sought recognition. Perhaps that's why you may not recognize her. Rather, she pressed her continuing interests and positions on those important community ingredients while never making a fuss. When asking her for some talking points for today, she noted that she was and is never very radical or controversial. My experience has been that she is someone that has ideas, is very intelligent, committed, and persuasive. Sharon is a community resource, and you should solicit her advice, involvement, and support to better achieve. Her neck has been stuck out serving this community for the entire 60-plus years without much recognition. In my judgment, she's a turtle that mostly swims under the water, which requires always having your neck out. She has been a major influence on this community, and this community is different because of Sharon, and it is time for this award and recognition. So I present to you Sharon Posner, a new 2026 turtle. Here's your turtle.
Thank you very much. There we go. I needed a little help getting up the stairs, but I don't mind asking for it. So first of all, thank you very much for the City Club for the honor of selecting me to be a turtle. I appreciate it very much. And also many thanks to Otto and Jean for their efforts on my behalf and all the nice things that he said about me. When I was in school, I used to get into trouble primarily for two things: being bossy and talking too much. However, as I got older, those faults kind of morphed into being assets. Being bossy turned out to mean being a good organizer, and talking a lot could be viewed as being well-informed and articulate and a good leader. And although I didn't outgrow them, I was able to kind of control and shape them. And these attributes served me well as I became involved with a number of organizations who played a very important part in developing the fabric of our community, and on whose behalf I was able to play a role. One of my first board memberships in Eugene was as a member of Birth to Three, their first board as the organization was getting started. It was a steep learning experience for all of us, but playing a role in such an important organization with such an important task was really pretty terrific. And Patty Barkin, who's here, was on that board as well. So it's long contacts. And actually, one of the many benefits of those years was working with and getting to know many outstanding people with whom I shared a dream and whom I know and work with today. And also here today is someone I haven't seen for about, 30 years or so, Alan Johnson, who was the attorney pro bono for the League of Women Voters in the 70s when we sued Breeden Brothers. And that was sticking our neck out. And you'll be shocked to know that we didn't stop Breeden Brothers for building a housing development on farmland. So now, of course, that would be good, and we would be praising Breeden Brothers. But in any case, it was an interesting time. It's really nice to see Alan Johnson here. And I would say the same of the many men and women that I worked with at the Oregon Contemporary Theater, which was called Lord Liebrick at the time, and Betty Taylor was on that early board at Lord Liebrick, as well as the Eugene Public Library and the Imagination Library. All in all, it's been a privilege to try to make a difference in a lot of good causes. And a shout out to my family, my husband Mike, who's here, who is very supportive, even though there were a number of occasions when he said, "What, another meeting?" Yes. And then my two sons, Orrin and Aaron, and their family for their support and involvement with the organizations I cared about. So many thank yous again. I will cherish my turtle and remember all the people who made it possible. Thank you very much.
While Greg is coming up, I want to point out that this is a 2025 turtle.
So, three remarkable individuals who've shared a commitment to justice and making Eugene a kinder, more understanding community. All three share common qualities: empathy, grit, resolve, a good sense of humor, and more than a little bit of irreverence. But I'm here to talk about Paul. It is both a joy and an honor to recognize Paul Solomon today. Individuals who couldn't be here: Turtles Ron Chase from 1998, Margaret Halleck from 2024. Wanted to be here. Please, when you see them, quiz them about their thoughts on Paul. You will find them interesting. Paul Solomon may best be known for his 23 years of service at Sponsors, where he followed Ron Chase and served as executive director for 20 years. As we should all know, Sponsors is an extraordinary local agency dedicated to serving individuals with conviction histories as they re-enter the community. Under Paul, Sponsors has flourished. Sponsors is recognized as the reentry authority in the state and serves as a regional and national model. The agency operates with 50 staff, 20 buildings, 7 sites, and over 240 beds, both transitional and long-term housing, and multiple service programs. It was in large part Paul's vision and drive that led to the construction of most all of the agency's housing projects. If you have not toured sponsors, do it. Give them a call. I promise you'll be impressed. Every county needs a sponsors, but we have it here. But back to Paul. Paul is a national, regional, and state advocate for justice system reform and for including welcoming and supporting those with lived experiences in the justice system, in having their voice and their vote engaged in improving community safety and the systems of justice. Paul serves at the state level. He's the chair of the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission, the co-chair of the Governor's Racial Justice Council on Criminal Justice Reform and Police Accountability, and serves on the Governor's Reentry Council. I could list all the ways that Paul is engaged in making criminal justice systems and public safety systems better, but it would take all afternoon and perhaps make Paul reconsider how he's spending his time. I don't think any of us want that. As I've said, Paul is a national expert on reentry interventions for people with conviction histories. He is the genius. I can say this in a room full of architects. He's the architect and thought leader on the national stage. And he continues to do this work here in Oregon, here in Eugene. And all of us benefit from his work, whether we know that or not. So Paul Solomon, with his skills, ability, and passion, is a leader of leaders, a role model, a mentor, and a teacher. Does it make him a turtle? Yes. He sticks his neck out. He is an effective agent of change. By redesigning and implementing systems, big, burly, impersonal systems, changing justice systems, changing public safety systems. Not only changing systems, but changing how we think about them, how we talk about them, how we organize around justice systems. He's changed who is at the table making those decisions, and he's changed how we define success. He does this in 3 ways. First, by being himself. He's a blast to work with. He's funny and thoughtful, humble and irreverent. He makes hard work pleasurable. Second, by expanding who is at the table to design solutions, by ensuring we add people who have been involved in or impacted by the criminal justice system. This has been years in the making. And he's done this nationally, he's done this regionally. More importantly, he's done it here at home. And finally, he focuses on what information, data, and evidence is being used to make decisions. Lots of people talk about the importance of data and but how many actually walk their talk? I can tell you Paul does. Paul is well known for using data, valuable, specific, local, evidence-based data to inform and persuade justice system partners. He's remarkable for encouraging all of us public safety partners. I can't tell you how many DAs, how many sheriffs, how many directors of parole and probation or juvenile justice he's worked with over the years, but he has been there for us nonstop for decades. He's remarkable in bringing us back to the data when we make the tough decisions. Paul has no problem being the sole dissenting voice when the facts and the evidence inform that decision. Paul has been Lane County's most consistent champion dedicated to the collection and use of data to learn, inform, and advance our public health and safety. One colleague said of Paul, "Never was there a clearer voice of evidence-based advocacy than Paul Solomon." I have no doubt whatsoever that we are better off for having Paul's wisdom, drive, and humor, focusing on improving our safety and justice systems. So join me in thanking Paul for his brilliant and transformative work.
Wow. I am humbled and honored. One, it's great to be among such an amazing group of individuals. So many of the turtles I have known and admired for years. So thank you. I'm incredibly honored to receive this award, especially in the company of so many who've inspired me over the years. I'm also deeply grateful to Greg for his kind introduction and Ron Chase, who was supposed to be here, but both of whom who have walked alongside me and been true allies and friends. I'm not used to talking about myself. I was recognizing that I had a little nervousness today, and I think it's because I do a lot of public speaking, but I rarely talk about myself. But when I reflect on what I do, it starts with my own journey. I've lived the experience of returning to the community with nothing but hope and a criminal record. I know what it's like to come home from prison, ready to rebuild your life, only to find that the world isn't ready to let you. You're expected to succeed, to work, to pay taxes, to stay out of trouble, but no one wants to hire you, rent to you, or believe in you. That kind of rejection, daily, in ways both small and large, can break a person. But I was fortunate. I worked hard, seized opportunities, and discovered purpose and a path forward. And I made a commitment that has guided the last 30-plus years of my life to change the systems and structures that put success out of reach for those trying to re-enter our community and start anew. Through both lived experience and decades of work, I've come to believe that people are more than the worst thing that they've ever done. We all have the capacity to grow, to contribute, to heal, and become better versions of ourselves. Everyone deserves a second chance. I've been lucky to have mentors along the way, none more impactful than Ron Chase. I had the privilege of working alongside Ron for over a decade at Sponsors and eventually succeeded him, as Greg mentioned, as executive director. His guidance both shaped my leadership and vision for this work. Some of the most brilliant, resilient, and compassionate people I've ever met have come out of prison. They've taught me as much as I've tried to offer them. Their stories reinforce my belief that our community is stronger when we invest in redemption, not just punishment. The barriers to reentry are real, they're systemic, and they're often invisible to those who haven't lived them. That's why I've committed myself to advancing meaningful criminal legal reforms rooted in justice, equity, and hope. It's also why I've worked to develop quality housing with wraparound support services, because everybody deserves a place to land, a place to heal, a place to begin anew, a place that doesn't just provide shelter, but radiates hope, where the quality of the space affirms the value of the people living there. Being recognized for an award meant for those who stick their necks out is something I respect deeply, because speaking up often means naming uncomfortable truths, challenging entrenched systems, and rejecting the idea that the way things are is the way they have to be. I do this work because I believe in people. I've seen what is possible when a person is given a real chance. And I want to live in a community that chooses compassion over fear and possibility over punishment. We can't call ourselves a just society if we keep blocking people out after they've served their time. Reentry is a test of our values and whether we truly believe in redemption, fairness, and the chance to begin anew. This work demands more than just charity. It demands courage and political will. I'm honored to receive this recognition, and I accept it as a call to keep pushing for the policies and investments that make reentry possible. Safe, affordable housing, second chance employment, expungement reform. These aren't radical ideas. They're the foundation of real equity and public safety. The question isn't whether we can build a better system, it's whether we're brave enough to demand it. So thank you.
So, 3 great new turtles. I'm going to talk about another thing that the Turtle Committee sometimes does, but before I do that, I want to say a couple personal comments about Paul Solomon. You heard, I think, what makes him so effective as a leader. But what you wouldn't know, unless you were a lawyer, is that his struggle to overcome his conviction was more difficult than most because his grandfather was one of the most famous lawyers in Oregon. The federal courthouse in Portland is named after his grandfather, Gus Solomon. Sorry, I get emotional. So I'm going to talk about something we've called the Order of the Turtle, which I usually blame on Gene Tate. I have a hard time saying no to Gene Tate. I'm trying to get better at that. But the Order of the Turtle is something that we created, the Turtle Committee, to recognize people who have acted in the interests, in service to the community, consistent with the purposes and mission of the City Club. So they're not baby turtles or wannabe turtles or almost turtles. It's a different criteria. We don't give it very often. We usually give it when Gene Tate remembers to nag us to do it. But there are people who have died in the past year that we feel are worthy of recognition. If there are any family members from the people who I'm about to name off, I know one is here, so I'll do that, save that one for last. But here are the people that the Turtle Committee wanted to recognize with something we call the Order of the Turtle. Dallas Boggs, who was very active downtown, community stuff. Nancy Fadley, she hired me as a law clerk when she was in the legislature and I was a silly little law student. Had a huge, and she also wrote a recommendation for me to get a rental unit when I couldn't otherwise get one. David Frog Miller, Frog who sold the cartoon, the silly, dope comic books. Marshall Peter, my beloved friend Marshall Peter, who should have been a lawyer. He kind of regretted not being a lawyer, but he was an amazing person. Lily Reynolds Parker, a leader of one of the first black families in Eugene, and Nancy Weber. And then the last person with the Order of the Turtle is a little unusual. It's someone who was also a turtle. And we just had a memorial service for her this past weekend, and that was Anita Johnson. So I know that Derek Johnson is here. Is there anyone else here from a family member? Okay. So I think that's the end of the program, Andrew. Do you want to close?
Those are all the turtles fit to honor this year. Please join me in thanking John and the rest of the Turtle Committee for all of their work to bring us these amazing people, amazing neighbors, and amazing stories. So thank you. This has been our May 30th, 2025 conversation at the City Club of Eugene. We will be back next week for a look at the economic impact of Tracktown, USA. Please note, folks, the program will be an hour later than normal. That's 1 o'clock right here, not noon. So 1 o'clock, a late lunch that day. For those of you listening on the radio, it'll be regularly scheduled on KLCC. Last but not least, this week, we have our annual meeting of the City Club, and that means we have the honor of welcoming 3 new board members to the City Club of Eugene. Those are Eric Jura, Betsy Pownell, and Meggie Wright. And so I know at least 2 of you are here. Can you stand up or wave and say hello to everybody? Yes, thank you. Super excited to have you both on board. You already have done so much for City Club, and welcome to the board. We also have to say goodbye, but not really. Goodbye from the board. To two departing board members, that's Sandy Smalley and Marty Rabbit. Sandy and Marty, could you come up here if you could, just for a moment? Sandy has been our secretary this last year. Marty. These, I always look to make Sandy cry. That's what I do up here. These ladies have been extraordinary volunteers as members of the board, but even beyond that, not only for us here at City Club, but across our community. We're really lucky to have you both. And I know that we'll see you here many Friday afternoons, if not all Friday afternoons, but we'll miss you on the board. So thank you so much for your service. As for me, before I hand off the presidency to Thomas Hura, I want to share my appreciation not only to those of you in this room, but also to those of you who are listening right now, tuned in to KLCC, and who have welcomed me into your living room, your car, your earbuds, or your garage for these last 2 years. It's meant an awful lot to be part of the soundtrack of your lives and to engage you from far about the issues that confront our community and our country in a constructive and hopefully optimistic way. Part of the magic about this maddening democracy of ours is that our fates are tied together. Our hopes and dreams linked at the hip, our ability to solve problems dependent on the actions of those we'll never meet. Although some of you I have met, because sometimes I get somebody, in the supermarket line say, "I've heard your voice before." Well, just be lucky you've heard the voice and not seen the face. But thank you all for tuning in, for taking action, and for being active citizens. Until next time, this is Andrew Kalloch signing off for the City Club of Eugene. Have a good weekend. See you next time. All right, we have cookies for you all, so we'll get these plates out to you. A couple of notes about annual meeting related stuff. You have an annual report that's been printed out and it's on your tables. You'll also get a virtual copy of the